There are so many things I could say about Zoffany, so many different ways of thinking about the man and his career and his life. One of the things that I love about Zoffany is that he was so widely travelled. He went, born in Germany, trained in Italy, found fame in England, went back to Italy, became court painter of the Habsburgs, or part of the Habsburgs, back to England again, over to India, quite possibly the best painter of the British in India that there has ever been, and then back to England. So in this kind of globe-trotting life, I've decided I'm just going to focus on his time in West London. Here he is, in a painting in Parma in Italy. I love Zoffany. I think he's the kind of person that I would have enjoyed spending an evening, or many evenings with. He was a very clubbable sort. He liked to have company all the time. He wasn't very particular about what kind of clubs he joined. He was a member of the Roman Catholic Church, became a member of the Roman Catholic Church in London, a particular church. Decided that wasn't really working for him in 18th century England, so he put that to one side, became a staunch Protestant. At the same time, he became a Freemason and kept his Freemason links wherever he went. And then at the same time, he joined a number of other clubs, including the Hellfire Club. And you're all laughing, so I presume I don't have to explain in great detail what that means. When he arrived in England, in London, London was just, well not just, was experiencing a huge boom, a huge economic boom. It was growing rapidly. And lots of things in the art world were changing as a result of this. And I think Zoffany, in some ways, epitomises some of these changes. Prior to this, the way to get on as an artist, or the pinnacle that you could aspire to, was to be painted to a royal family, to have the patronage of a king or a prince. But with this sort of rapid growth, rapid economic growth, that was now no longer the only way forward. There were plenty of rich people who could paint your painting, and plenty of people who weren't even aristocrats who could pay for your paintings. And Zoffany, throughout his life, throughout his career, seems to have tried to have a foot in both camps. Here in England, only 4 years after he got here, we'll come to that a little later as well, he was painting the king, the queen and the royal family. Then when he went back to Europe, in Italy, he painted a number of princes and then eventually painted the Habsburgs. But at the same time, his sort of bread and butter, as it were, the bulk of the portraits that he painted were very often of self-made people. People who had made their money through their own either business acumen or creativity. And I think this is a very sort of interesting sort of pivotal moment in the development of art practice and art patronage. Either is it art driven by the demands of the aristocracy in the way that it had been, or are we seeing the beginning of art driven by the market, by the public, heaven forbid by us? So I mentioned that Zoffany had a studio in Covent Garden. When Zoffany arrived in England, as I say, he didn't have very much English, he had no money, so he started painting clock faces, sort of pretty scenes on clock faces. Then he graduated to painting drapery in other people's paintings, quite common in those days that you would get somebody in to do the drapery, somebody in to do the horses, he might do the faces. So he was a sort of hack painter, I suppose we might call him. But he was very lucky, as I say, he was very clubbable, and he got to know a lot of the actors in Covent Garden, one of which was David Garrick. David Garrick, quite probably, well, certainly the most famous actor of his day, and probably one of the most famous actors of any day. And he, Garrick, liked Zoffany very much. I suspect also Zoffany was pretty cheap. And so he invited Zoffany out to his place in Hampton House and asked him to paint his portrait. Zoffany had painted Garrick a number of times before as an actor in his plays. And although they were clearly plays in London, in theatres in London, they were showing him in front of stage sets, or at least slightly imagined stage sets. But here we have Garrick in his home, but not in his home in London. Not actually where he lived for most of the year, but in his country residence. And this goes back again, I think, to Garrick wanting to show that he had made it, that he was wealthy, but more than wealthy, he was respectable. He wasn't just an actor, he was a wealthy actor. Zoffany's not really a landscape painter, and we'll touch on that a little later, but clearly he has spent a great deal of time, an inordinate amount of time, making sure that Garrick's property, Garrick's view, is accurately portrayed. Why is that? Why does that matter particularly? Could he not be anywhere? Well, it matters because this is Garrick's land. He owns this land. He has bought it, he has speculated, he has grown it. It's not just anywhere, it's his home. There is another version of this in which Shakespeare is easily seen. One of the things I love about this painting is Zoffany has gone to the trouble of actually also included the boot scrapers, just to sort of show that this is really real. So we're looking the other way, we're looking down the river. Again, there's not very much there. Here is Garrick, here is Mrs. Garrick, dressed up now. They're going out in the evening. Here's the boatman. He's just there waiting for them to take them to an adventure of some sort. It's not clear. Garrick and his wife were friends with all sorts of people. And Zoffany's portraits of them were hugely successful and really sort of launched his career. Before that, he was a reasonably successful painter of theatre scenes in London. But his association with David Garrick and association with Hampton particularly put him in touch with all sorts of people that he would never have been able to get in touch with before, including in this case the Duke of Devonshire. Duke of Devonshire in Chiswick House, well, just down the road from where we are, just down the road from Hampton House. Zoffany had a reputation for painting children. People liked to have their children painted by him because he was able to capture them in a very sort of lifelike way. And I think this is great. This is a great picture of children having fun. I mean, of course, we've got the oldest one who's not allowed to have fun because he's going to inherit the title, so he must seem respectable, I suppose. But the others, look at them, he's pushing his sister, he's chasing after, saying, let me have a go. This is just what children do today, it's only what my children do. I think there's something about Zoffany's playfulness, the fact that he liked to make jokes and make fun of people and observe them to see what their weaknesses were, that enabled him to paint children, enabled him to paint them in a very relaxed way. By 1764, Zoffany, so only 4 years after arriving in England, he was sufficiently rich, sufficiently successful to afford to rent his own property in the area. I mentioned that Hogarth was a sort of a huge influence on him. Well, Hogarth, obviously, Hogarth's house, which we can still go to, and his friendship with Garrick, and obviously painting in Chiswick House. He rented a house here, Hogarth's house, famously sort of austere and simple. That's not Zoffany's style at all. He rented a very grand place called Star House, no longer exists, otherwise I will show us a photo. Zoffany loved money, just couldn't hold on to it very long. And I think sort of his choice of house shows a lot about the kind of man he was, that he would much rather live for a little while in a grand style than for a long while in a simple style. Zoffany was introduced to Queen Charlotte. Queen Charlotte, just like Zoffany, from Germany. And I suspect the fact that they could both speak to each other in their native language was hugely helpful to Zoffany. Alan Ramsay was the court painter, and you may well have seen his portraits of George and Charlotte. And they're rather stiff, as befits a court painter. They're full of the sort of the nature of regality, perhaps you might say. Zoffany's not like that at all. He can make you look really good if he wants to, but actually what he's much better at is making you look human. One of the reasons Zoffany became very successful as a portraitist is that he was very good at quite subtly showing great wealth, I suppose in the modern words, showing bling, showing women in fantastic clothes, men surrounded by gold. And of course, if you had made all your own money, obviously Queen Charlotte had not, but if you wanted to show your wealth, Zoffany was a very good painter to go to because he excelled in doing just that.